Alright, so I'm going to say right up front this is going to be a little longer, but I think well worth it. This is really something powerful, I think, here, and this is going to be using the RTLSDR, probably the ANTSDR as well, and the SDR4space.lite application, and Influx and Grafana. And what we're going to do is use some new scripts provided by the SDR4space.lite application, or for the little app image, to automatically detect, I guess, spectrum activity or frequencies that are active above a noise floor uh, per whatever setting you set in the script, and then have that information automatically sent over to a database here, in this case the Influx database, and then visualized through the Grafana, hope I'm saying that right, dashboard like I've got set up in front of me right here. I do have the legend hidden that would show all the frequencies that are selectable here. I'll just highlight over a little one here so you can get an idea of what I'm saying. There's a 104.3. You can see the levels it was seen at. And so all those lines are representing different frequencies that were identified. I think it was about the FM 88 to 100 and something, 107, 108 megahertz. And so over a period of time, 1245 to there on the right, I had that running in a script, in a cron script with the RTLSDR doing that. And so you could have multiple receivers at all sorts of different locations feeding into this database. You can make as many panels and dashboards as you'd like, and I have to kind of jump into that in a future video. There's enough to cover in this one alone, just getting set up. So this is the goal. We'll get to this here, but from scratch. And to do that, let's see, we're going to jump over to this is an Intel NUC running the latest DragonOS 17 on a USB stick. So it's running live. So if this all works, I'll go ahead and share the video. If it doesn't, I'll redo it all with everything installed. But I had this set up so that I could get this going rather quick here. Alright, so Intel NUC, DragonOS 17. We need a few things to get set up with this. So let's see. These links will be in the description. This is the Influx database, but what I have found is that the one in the 20.04 repositories all the queries didn't quite work right. So come to the Influx data site here and go down on the downloads, and we're interested in the 1.x version. So we'll use the Ubuntu and Debian, and I'll copy quickly here to wget this, and we'll take that deb package and we'll go ahead and install it. Okay, that's going to create some symlinks, and alright, let's see, and we'll do a sudo, let's see, service start. That should start the InfluxDB. We can check by doing influx, and we see the version that we have there. And then what we're going to do is set up the database, and we'll just name it, let's see, database, we'll just go with WBFM, which is what I was using earlier. And so that creates the database. Just show, let's see, okay, we have WBFM. The other thing too is we want to install the latest Grafana. So I'll X out of here, most of this is already installed in DragonOS, but we'll double check. Okay, I'm going to add the GPG key. Alright, the stable release is fine. And we'll do a sudo apt-get update. Sudo apt-get, let's see, install Grafana. Okay, we can see it's getting it from the right location. And we'll do okay, we should be able to localhost 3000. This will load up Grafana. By default, it's admin. Let's go ahead and leave it as is. All right, and let's see. I come down through here and try and do this from memory, but we want to add a data source, InfluxDB. And what I'll do is I'll come over and check my existing one. Go ahead, name this WBFM. HTTP localhost 8086. Check our rest of our settings. Come down to the bottom. WBFM admin, and the password really doesn't matter. It's not really set up for that, or at least in this version that I know of. And we'll do post on HTTP. We'll hit save and test. You should get that the data source is working. That's good for right now because we don't have any data in the database. So let's see, what we want to do is I'm using the current SDR4space.lite application that is included in DragonOS, but I expect that an updated, even more improved version will be out probably here really soon, and that has a lot of improvements in it. So you'd want to come check out the SDR4space free version. This GitHub here, you'd probably check releases and look for a newer one than I'm using here. We also want the latest scripts, which you can see were updated yesterday. And how we can do that is if we go into the user source SDR4space, you can see I have the app image there, the current version. We'll do a go into the examples folder and we'll do a sudo git pull. This should pull in the latest from the site. And alright, so we have the latest there, and what I am going to do, let's see what our IP address is. So normally normally you will probably have the RTLSDR plugged into the same system that you're running this on, but I actually have the ANTSDR plugged into the NUC, and I have the RTLSDR plugged into another computer on the network. So what I want to try real quick is sending the information over from the RTLSDR and the other computer to this Grafana database. So let's see how we can do that. So let me check. What was this again? 122. So we'll come over to the other system here that already has Grafana set up and already has the updated examples spectrum. And what I have done is, which I've shown in other videos, is I've copied the current app image over to this directory. I understand the newer app image is going to be able to, I guess, run things from zip files and all sorts of improvements, but we're just using this for right now. So what we want to do is edit that new spectrum underscore detect grafana.js file. You can see there's the minimum and max 88 to 108. It is set up for the RTLSDR. We can see here by the SOAPy query. What I'm going to try and do though is change this from localhost to 192.168.0.122. Host name, we'll go ahead and add on to that RTLSDR so we can differentiate in the database. And if you look at the bottom of this script, you'll see where the setup for Grafana and how that's working is down there. You also notice too that it's using user bin GNU plot, which I don't think is really even coming into play on this particular script, but just for future reference when you're using other ones, DragonOS has GNU plot-x11. Well, let's see, we'll save that. You'd also, if you were in fact wanting the pop-up graphical image, you'd see this is set to x11. Again, I don't think this is going to come too much into play for this Grafana thing that we're trying to do here. So let's see. We'll just go ahead and use sudo. We'll do the app image f, and we'll call on the spectrum detect Grafana. And this should grab a hold of the RTLSDR. It will look at these frequencies and find the ones according to how we have it set up there. And it'll send that over to the Grafana. So let's go back over to the live. Let's do influx again, and we'll check the database to see what we've got. Let's see, we'll use the WBFM, and then from there we should be able to see all the different values in there with the select. Let's see, from WBFM, let's try that. Alright, so we see the information actually made it over from the other system running the RTLSDR into our database. Let's jump back over real quick. I know I'm going back and forth here, but what we can do is, while we're continuing to work on this, there's a file I've got here. You should be able to see this here. You'd set this up. I'm going to change it a little bit here, and you could create a cron script. Let's do a sudo nano and the etc cron d folder, and let's call it let's see, SDR4space, and we'll paste this in here. The one thing we'll want to do though is we'll change this to the user source slash let's see, change directory user source SDR4space samples RX spectrum wide spectrum. Alright, so I'll make sure we're in the right directory here. Alright, user source, SDR, and then that'll run the app image that we have in there and the Grafana script. Okay, let's save that. That'll happen every 5 minutes on a cron job. So now we have the RTLSDR automated on a separate system, reporting back to our Intel NUC running Grafana. So, all right, let's continue on here. So now we've got information into the database. Let me think. Let's see. We'll go under our dashboard section here, and let's look at adding an empty panel. And what I'll do is, again, refer over to my current dashboard that I have set up here. Okay. One other thing, we'll make this a little cleaner. Let's go under the panel and variables. We're going to add a couple variables here because we've got really two things that we're going to be queuing in on in the database. And so let's name one of these receiver, because we might want to have more than one receiver. RECEVR. We'll make it a query. Got the WBFM data source, and let's try this out. Show tag values from WBFM with key, let's see, equals host. And so we can see multi-value, include all options is fine, but there's the DragonOS RTLSDR from the database. So let's update that, and we'll add another one. And let's see, this one will be the frequency, or for the frequency variable. Very similar. Let's just do freak, and this will make more sense once I have the dashboard up and running. This is what is going to allow it to be selectable, like you saw at the beginning of the video, to sort and only show things from certain receivers, only show certain frequencies. Let's see, key equals, in this case, freak. So again, we should see the frequencies that are available, very common station frequencies. So let's see, let's save that dashboard. We'll call it DragonOS dashboard. Okay, we've got that panel. Now let's do a little more to it. We'll go ahead and say, I'll make this full screen for a second here. Alright, let's see. We'll pick WBFM. We're going to add a couple things to here. We'll say freak. Oh, that's kind of hard to see what's on the screen here. Let's bring it down a little bit. Go ahead and select a tag value of freak, and that's what we made just a second ago. And let's add host equals, let's see, let's see, should be able to do receiver in this case. Do a value, we can do set it up like you'd like. Let's see. We'll do tag host, tag freak. Get rid of this one. Let's see, let's hit apply on this. Let's see, field level. So we'll change field to level, and there we go. We can say last. Okay, hit apply. Alright, so now we can start to see this coming in to our database, and that should be scripted. Let's see, 2235. Not sure how long ago I did that script, but we'll keep an eye on it and see if I got that cron job right. In the meantime, let's add another receiver here. So now, let's see, we should have, let's see, I need to turn it on actually. Let's see. Alright, I'm going to turn on the ANTSDR here. And again, I'm running this live, so that's why you see that talk about libSDR play API that is needs installed. It's sitting in the user source directory. Alright, so and now I just realized, let's see, this is the problem with having so many different SD cards laying around here. Alright, there we go. I needed to get the right SD card plugged in to boot up the firmware there, so now we can see the PlutoSDR. So let's change into our RX Spectrum wired Spectrum. Do a sudo nano or whatever your file editor is, and let's try and change from the RTLSDR. We'll uncomment PlutoSDR. Should be okay because I'm plugged in USB. Let's come down, and we'll leave this set to localhost because it is on the same machine that the Grafana is running. And oh, actually no, back at the top, let's change the host name to, let's see, ANTSDR. Now of course this works just the same on the PlutoSDR. I'm just using the ANTSDR. Let's save that, and let's see, so same thing, we should be able to, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to symlink this just to make it easier. Go up a few directories here. Let's see, one more directory. Actually, let me think. Let's call out the whole thing. User source SDR for space, and then the app image, and we'll basically just spell it out again, which will put a symlink right here. And let's do, probably don't need sudo because I don't think we're writing to anything, but let's see, so sudo SDR for space, and we'll run this detection script here. Let's see what we get. Okay, so it does see the ANTSDR E310. It's going through, it's doing its thing. And what should happen is it should dump it into that same influx database with the ANTSDR. Let's do a refresh on here. Let's see. Let's see, localhost. Let's take a look at influx again. Alright, so I do see the ANTSDR. And it's questionable if my script is running. I see what the problem is. It's now named this. So let's edit our cron job. There we go. Alright, so that should be good there. We should start getting more updates. Let's switch back over to, let's see what we got here. Okay. However, I forgot to save the settings. Shoot. Alright, well, I can do this again real quick. Practice frequency, and host. Change that to receiver, field level. We can go last. Say change the time. Say tag and host. Alright. Let's see, let's save this. Okay. Let's see, so I see the RTLSDR. Let's try the ANTSDR. And there we go. So now we can check the information between the two SDRs here on our one Grafana dashboard and our panel here. And with cron jobs and running over long periods of time, you'll end up with something like this, although now I think about it, you want to, let's see, you want to edit this panel, and let's see, you can change where the legend is at. You can hide it. Let's see, if you do connect null values, which you won't really see it now, I don't think, until we get more information. Then you'll start getting those lines drawn. You can change the interpolation, bars, points, lines once we get more information, and so on and so forth. There's some other options that you can set here. So we got both systems there, and so obviously I'm not going to sit here for long enough to get these lines drawn, but you get the idea of how to get set up and get to this point here using DragonOS, following along using SDR for space. That app image right now, best of my knowledge, supports the RTLSDR and the Pluto, but obviously in this case also the ANTSDR. So yeah, that's just kind of the intro to this. It can get more sophisticated, but that's taking that automated spectrum detection that you're doing, and of course you can probably play around with the frequency ranges and shift it to other areas. You can also, if you look at the example, you can see how it's set for, well, the step, the trigger. You can look at the descriptions that it's got off to the side, the change, like how high above the noise floor, gain settings are in there. So yeah, there's a lot of things that you can get set up here and tweak as needed. I think that kind of covers everything I wanted to show up to this point. Let's do one more thing here. So now we can see we start to get the lines because that script is running on the remote RTLSDR that's feeding into here. And alright, there's going to be a lot more with this, but hopefully that gets you up and going. Alright, thank you.